We'll open the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 9th of the city of Davenport. May I have a call of order, please?
Franken,
Here.
Miranda,
Here.
Powers,
Here.
Hastedi,
Here.
Kretz,
Here.
and McGivern.
Here. Okay, that takes us to item number 2, Secretary's report. We have the consideration of the April 11th, 2023 minutes of the meeting. I need a motion and a second or conversation.
I move acceptance.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's done. And this will take us to item number 3, communications. Matt, we have a new commissioner.
Yep, just want to extend a welcome to Chris Kretz, our newest commissioner. So we just have one more vacancy to fill now. So welcome aboard. If you want to give maybe a brief introduction, just on your background, and then we can get started.
Hello, like you said, my name is Chris. Moved here about 6 years ago, and actually Marion McGinnis was one of the first people we met and spoke to, because when we moved here, we were interested in historic houses. Wanted to buy one, move into one, and now we own 2. One we live in and one we just almost done restoring. So really got into the history of the area, and when this came up, it was a great opportunity to jump right in and keep it going. So
Great.
thank you for having me.
Welcome. All right. Matt, anything else?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you very much. We have no other old business, so that'll take us to new business. Item number A, letter number A, case number COA 23-17. It's a request for the exterior alteration at 321 West 6th Street. The Henry and Julia Trischler Fram House is a contributing building in the Hamburg Local Landmark Historic District. Terry Gens is a petitioner. Matt?
Okay, the subject property, it's located at the corner of 6th Street and Ripley. The home, which is a single-family residence, was built in 1880. It's in the Second Empire architectural style and is a 3-story home with a mansard roof. This house has received funding through the Dream Plus program to do a series of different revitalization projects. The first of which is the restoration of the limestone steps. Those are located at the front of the home. So the applicant would be reconstructing the existing steps. The limestone themselves would be removed and the base would be leveled to provide a flat and secure footing. And then the stones would be reset on that surface. So reusing those stones will maintain the proportion and scale of the stoop as it currently is. Second component of this project is work on the balcony post and the ceiling of the balcony. So there's a second floor balcony on the west elevation. The owner would be repairing the ceiling boards and installing new boards where missing in wood. They also will be replacing 2 posts on the Juliet balcony. Carver Custom Millwork will replace the original in material and design. The third aspect of this project is replacement of the basement windows. So there's 2 basement windows that are currently boarded up on the front of the home. They will be replaced with custom-made windows from Carver Custom Millworks. The replacement are wood windows that will match the openings and the design of the original window. And then the final component is work on the Yankee gutters. They'll be cleaned, patched, and resealed. So they'll be patched with sheet metal, resealed with Gacco roof coating. And really, rehabbing these gutters will preserve the historic appearance of the mansard roof while preventing further water damage to the home itself. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness as presented. The project was reviewed for conformance with the historic preservation ordinance, and it meets the following 2 standards. The first being that every reasonable effort shall be made to make the minimum number of changes necessary to keep the property in good state of repair. And the second being that deteriorated architectural features should, where possible, be repaired rather than replaced. Where deterioration requires replacement, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities.
Okay, is there anyone from the petitioner side that would like to speak to the commission? They may do so, but come forward and stand at the podium and speak under the mic.
Hi, Terry Gens, 321 West 6th Street. The one correction I would like to make is the 1880 of the house. If you go back to the original photo, the main block of the house we found since the Quad City Times digitized all of their files. We found out that that first part of the house was owned by Mr. Bechtel in 1858. 56 or 58 is what we're thinking. And then we found a newspaper article where Clausen doubled the size of the house and raised the roof up to the Second Empire House in 1885 was a newspaper article. And then the back of the house was added on to in 1892. And then the two columns that are being replaced on the Juliet balcony, I didn't realize I had the original post in the basement. That was the picture on the far right. So they're the original posts. So what Carver is doing is the bases of the posts, they're gonna cut those off, put old growth wood, and then we're gonna flip them over so the newer repair is at the top, which pretty much, it'll hide under the little roof there. And so the original bottom, old growth wood, then will be able to weather the weather, because it'll get the weathering. So the pillars on the right I had them in the basement, so they're just going to cut them off before you get to the squarish part. So they're the original. And then we have some of the original window frames in the basement. You saw that as well, and they're just going to be replicated. And there was terrible termite damage on the one side many 35 years ago.
Yeah.
So basically nothing is really being replaced or altered, and the steps are all the original steps. They're just going to be taken out, re-leveled, and new mortar where it needs braced up. And then the original limestone will just go right back in.
Okay.
Any questions for me? Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, is there any questions from the commission to staff? Michael? Oh, no. All right, then I need direction, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve COA 23-17 as presented and approved by staff. Roll call, please.
Miranda,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Hastedi,
Yes.
Kretz,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Franken.
Yes.
Thank you. That takes us to item number B, case number COA 23-18. Request to install new windows at 1208 Main Street. The J. Monroe Parker Fick House is the local designated historic landmark and located within College Square Historic District. C.J. Haas Home Construction's petitioner on behalf of Delt 100 Alumni Council LLC. Matthew?
Yeah, so the J. Monroe Parker Fick House is a locally designated historic landmark that was listed in June of 2003 with the support of the current ownership. It's located in the College Square Historic District. This building was built in 1881 with the French Second Empire architectural style. It's recognized by preservation officials as the finest residence in the state of Iowa, second only to the Governor's Mansion at Terrace Hill. And it is the most widely photographed and publicized landmark in Davenport, according to the nomination sheet. The current property owners are doing a series of repairs to this building, which started in 2001. The commission did approve brick replacement and tuck pointing, and that work has commenced and finished. And then last year, they also reconstructed the east porch. And then today's request is for third phase of renovations, which would be for total replacement of 100% of the windows. So that would be 80 windows. The existing are 1/1 wood windows, and then the proposed replacement are 1/1 vinyl windows. They would be Harvey Tribute double hung windows. So a little bit of project history. Staff was first contacted about this project in the fall. Staff provided the applicant with Davenport's Historic Preservation Ordinance, as well as the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The owners were also afforded historic tax credit and grant opportunities from the Historic Preservation Office. And then in January of this year, the commission held a work session with the owners. Just to summarize, the commission discouraged vinyl replacements at that meeting, and staff advised the applicant to pursue wood windows for their project. Following that meeting, staff requested a window survey be submitted documenting the existing condition of each window. The purpose of that was to identify the extent of deterioration and to provide a decision base as to whether the windows should be repaired or replaced. The survey would illustrate which windows require routine maintenance, stabilization, partial replacement, or total replacement. The applicant has declined to provide the window survey, citing the request as not reasonable or feasible, and wishes to proceed forward with the information as submitted. These are the 4 photos of the windows documenting their condition. However, this kind of remains the extent of the windows that we've been able to see of the home. So the replacement windows are Harvey Tribute double hung. It's a 1/1 white vinyl window. The applicant did provide a window schedule comparing the existing dimensions of the wood windows in the building with that of the replacement vinyl windows. The frame components are not identical to the historic wood windows. They're slightly smaller, and that's likely so that way they can fit within the openings. The applicant cited or deemed wood windows to not be reasonable nor economically feasible. It's important to note, though, that our historic preservation ordinance does not reference economic hardship in the certificate of appropriateness review process. So the window schedule documents the 80 windows proposed for replacement. It consists of each facade on the home and each floor from basement to the tower element. So the Historic Preservation Ordinance has design criteria used to implement the review standards. So in terms of design, traditional wood windows consist of individual parts. Each component can be individually repaired and replaced in kind. Contrast that with vinyl windows, which consist of a single unit. So the shape of the framing and the quality of the unit are not the same as historic wood windows. And none of the replacement windows are identical matches to the existing. In terms of color and texture, vinyl replacement windows have more of a glossy white appearance, which does not match that natural finish of a wood window. Vinyl also contains different textural quality than wood when touched or visually inspected. The original wood windows are also a character-defining architectural feature of this home, and the discrepancies in visual properties of vinyl windows are noticeably different from a wood window due to the variations in dimension and design, which will alter the way that the structure looks and feels. And then finally, material. So vinyl is a synthetic material which was not available at the time of construction. So vinyl does not have that same composition and natural look as old-growth lumber. And vinyl products do not respect the historic integrity of the home. So with that, staff's conclusion. So property owners are encouraged to repair and retain the existing historic windows. The application as submitted fails to document that all viable options for preservation were explored. The overall condition of each window was not evaluated to determine whether components could be repaired rather than replaced. So the request is total replacement. And then secondly, it's contrary to historic preservation ordinance to replace an entire window when the deteriorated components can be restored. So when replacement's necessary, the new window should match the old in design, material, color, texture, and other visual qualities. The proposed vinyl windows are an inappropriate substitute material as it does not convey the same appearance as the wood window. So with that, staff is making a recommendation to deny the certificate of appropriateness as presented. It was reviewed for conformance with our historic preservation ordinance and does not comply with the following standard. And that's that deteriorated architectural features should, where possible, be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, and pictorial evidence.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Is that everything from staff? Okay. Petitioner, is there anyone from the petitioner side that would like to speak to the commission? Please come forward at the podium and stay under the microphone. We'll do you one at a time. And just introduce yourself and we'll just go from there.
I'm Casey. I did the porch project last year. And I'm here on behalf of the owners, just to chat a little bit about the vinyl window replacement project that we want to do. And I guess I'd like to point out first that I think there are only 4 pictures here that were shown of the interior. But at the meeting, was it the workshop meeting we had a couple months back? I think Dr. Hennon provided a whole bunch of pictures of the exterior, as I recall. And I guess maybe I was mistaken. I thought, did you have those or not?
So those were included in the staff
Okay.
report,
Okay.
but the presentation overlaid each photo on top of the other.
Yeah.
So it was
Oh, that's
difficult
fine.
to interpret.
And that's no big deal. I just wanted just to illustrate that, like, you can't really tell the integrity of the windows, the exterior especially, from the interior pictures. So, I guess with that said, so yes, just the project is, as Matt said, about 80 windows. Want to replace because the existing windows have never been replaced. They're original. They're 140 plus years old. So one could imagine restoration for 140-year-old windows, in my professional opinion, is not feasible for this project. It would, strictly speaking of price, I don't do restoration, but those who do would probably tell you it would be quite expensive per window. It's actually a lot more affordable to replace, whether you use vinyl or wood replacements. Strangely more, a lot more economical. I guess I wanted to talk about just some of the windows are so bad they're falling in and kind of presenting a risk to the kids that live in the house. And I don't know, Sarah, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure.
Quickly about it? So I guess before I add Sarah, does anyone have questions about like just the construction process or anything specific to what, we would be doing, proposing that you might want to know? I guess I should answer those questions first. Sorry.
Michael?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
So essentially what you're doing is you're putting in a replacement window,
That is correct.
which means that the original frame remains. Is that right?
The frame, yes, the window frame, not the panes. So
No, the frame.
That's
not-
correct.
Yeah, right.
The frame remains, yes.
So the new windows are going to be significantly smaller. The glass area is going to be significantly smaller than the original. Is that right?
It's smaller. Significantly is arguable, but yes, you are correct, it is smaller.
It is smaller. But the appearance then will also change from the existing windows, assuming the existing windows were in good shape. It will have a significant, it will have a different appearance with the replacement windows than with the original.
Very slightly, but it might have some difference.
Were you here when the state folks came over to talk with us about window replacement?
I was not here, no.
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, come on up,
Yeah.
Counselor.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Sarah Oberg Ramirez from Land and Waterman, assisting the homeowners with their application here. A couple things I wanted to point out. So Mr. Werderich pointed out that economic feasibility generally isn't taken into consideration as the review process. I would respectfully disagree with that. The ordinance 1401-060 section C cited by Mr. Werderich states largely in part that the historic, it states that economic feasibility is a factor and says that all the standards for review have to be applied in a reasonable manner, taking into full consideration the issue of economic feasibility and other technical considerations. As you guys know likely already, Delta Sigma Chi, the Del 100 homeowners have owned the home for over 45 years, and they do have a history of compliance with the Historic Preservation Ordinance standards. They've completed the prior projects mentioned by Mr. Werderich, and they fully respect the standards in maintaining the historic integrity of the home. With this particular project, the question of economic feasibility is a major one. The homeowners have gotten estimates for wooden window replacements, and Casey can speak to this a little more, but the estimates for the wooden window installation exceeded $190,000. Which was considerably more expensive than the cost of the vinyl installation, which came in, I believe, at about $78,000. So there's a difference of about $112,000 there. Even if the homeowners were to be eligible for some type of grant opportunity, it's unlikely that it would help bridge that $112,000 gap. And that is why the homeowners feel it's just not possible. These standards stating that deteriorated architectural features should be repaired rather than replaced does take into account, where possible. That standard is that where possible. And given that economic feasibility has to be taken into account, it's simply not possible in the homeowner's financial means to spend close to $200,000, if not more, on the wooden window replacements. Another code section, that same ordinance cited earlier, but section E states that the commission must recognize the importance of approving plans that will be reasonable for the applicant to carry out. And that is all that the homeowners are asking here, is a reasonable path forward to help restore the historic integrity of the home. And as Casey mentioned, remedy the issues that the current tenants are facing. There are significant safety issues at this point, given the fact that the house is currently being lived in by several young men. The damage kind of has continued to worsen because of the delay in the approval process. And the homeowners are becoming concerned about potential liability issues there. So it's something that they want to address as quickly as possible here, making sure that the home is getting repaired to the best extent possible at a reasonable cost. All the homeowners that lived in the building when they were students, so they have a personal connection to the home and they want to see it taken care of, but to the extent reasonable. So that is the homeowner's position at this point. I know Dr. Hennon is on the line if he had anything to add or any questions that you guys have for us.
We'll get to the next petitioner here in just a moment.
Okay.
I got a question for you, but are you done? I didn't want to end you.
Nope, I'm done.
Okay. Can you tell me how long your clients have been in ownership of the property?
I want to say 45 years that they've owned the property. Is that correct, Dr. Hennon or Casey, if you know?
That is correct, 45 years.
45 years.
And of the 45 years, have they been fully aware since, that's probably when the historic preservation ordinance came in place. They've been aware of the ordinance of an equal amount of time.
It's my understanding that yes, they are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else from the commission for this petitioner? Michael?
I have a question, maybe it goes to CJ. What is the functional life expectancy of a vinyl window?
I forwarded the warranty information to Matt, and I guess I didn't read it very thoroughly. I just sent it as sort of a point of reference. But, I don't have an exact answer for you. I know that they're not what they used to be. They're not what vinyl windows were 20 years ago. They didn't last very long. Vinyl windows now are substantially different. They're comparable to wood. There aren't many people who put wooden windows in their house anymore, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And is there anyone else for Counselor? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe we have another petitioner. I believe we have another petitioner that would like to speak.
And I'm not sure where we are in the process, but I would like to comment on this project.
Please do.
If it's appropriate.
Yeah, please do. Floor is yours.
Again, my name is Dr. Bradley Hennon. I'm one of the managing owners of this property, 1208 Main Street. That's on your agenda today. I did address this committee previously a few months ago in person. I traveled out there in February to address this project in a work session. And again, so those of you new to the committee, or I would remind the committee, those of you who were there, that we have owned this property for 45 years. And again, for the people new to the committee, 35 of those years, the current board that has managed this property, not only have we lived there, but we've continued to work together over the last 35. I think we have diligently worked with the staff to provide all necessary and reasonable feasible requests for our application. Again, as our attorney said, we do take some exception to a few items that the staff in the recommendation report, and I can actually add to some of the questions that have been posed here. In regard to our application, we have chased the carrot of historic money for 30 years. I have personally applied for the tax credit and we have had no response from that within the last few years. So this isn't something that we're new to. The reality was when our group got together in 2019, when we had some very serious issues in front of us, when we finally decided to raise our own funds and monies, when we really were able to start to move this project forward. As you can see, the project now currently has over $400,000 in money that we have put towards this, and we would like to continue. That's the bottom line here. So that was the first scenario, is that we spent thousands of dollars on grant writers and different scenarios that would lead us down those paths, and we're not successful in any of them for a couple of reasons in regard to how the property is organized, as well as what was available, and of course the challenges that would happen with proposals. The quotes would come back 3 to 4 times the amount of what we could get other places. So that it just has become an unfeasible way for us to approach this project. Now, in regards to what Matt talked as a schedule, we consider our summary of windows is the list that you have there. This is 80 windows, 3 stories. It's just not feasible for us to climb up there to look at this scenario. And in reality, we don't believe it's within the scope of this committee that you can decide what we repair or replace. We feel the scope of the committee, which we have tried to abide by, your job is to decide the appropriateness, historic appropriateness of a project. We agree with that, and you can give us that. However, if it's not feasible, we're not going to be able to do that. In regards to vinyl windows, there was a question in regard to what they look like. Well, all you have to do is look straight across the street to the sorority property there that's within our same area of living. They have vinyl windows and had those for 20 years, and you can't tell the difference from a distance that they're vinyl versus our windows across the street. So to answer the councilman's question, there they are, and they put those. We of course have a very good relationship with those owners of that property. In fact, one of the initial owner was a member of our fraternity initially before it was sold to the sorority. And again, remember, for those of you who are not familiar with our alumni group, the fraternity's been around for over 110 years. We're a very old organization, and we have a great history within Davenport community, especially associated with Palmer College. So if you want to see what these would look like, just drive up the street and look at the house across the street, and you cannot tell the difference from the curbside view what these would look like. And it would greatly enhance the structural integrity and safety of our current tenants. There's actually windows right now with absolutely no barrier from the inside to the outside. And there's just no way for us to approach this project. If we did this on a piecemeal basis, that's when the property would look very different. And we're not interested in doing that. That's when things would look really bad with different kinds of windows, a new window or an old window. We just don't feel that that's going to allow us to adequately allow the history and appropriateness of the historic nature of this property to move forward. So we have to be able to repair our property. We have to be able to have our tenants be safe. These are students at Palmer College. We have to be able to do that. And the only way that we are going to be able to do that, the other scenario here in regards to the reality of the situation here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we started, as Matt said, this project in the fall of last year. Each one of these windows has to be specifically, these are made by hand. You can't, there are specific windows for each scenario. So it takes us 3 to 6 months in order for this to happen. We are now 6 months into this. Damage is continuing to happen to this property. We're at a point here now where we have to ask ourselves what's fair in regards to the liability of you not allowing us to repair our property, who is liable for those repairs, and it would only be fair for us to start it. Again, we're asking this committee to ignore the recommendations of the staff. We feel we have complied, because our only other option here would be to ask, the courts to determine, what is not only what is appropriate here, but who is responsible for now the almost a year's worth of damage that continues to accumulate as this property continues to deteriorate. So again, I'm happy to answer any other questions, and I think Dr. Phil Arnone, if you'd like to add some comments.
I'd like to be brief. I'm not sure if they care to ask you questions before they give me the floor. I will try and be brief. I know you have a lot on your agenda.
If it's okay, I'm going to do one person at a time. So, Dr. Henning, just hang with me here for a second. I see really no questions from the commission. So,
I'd like to ask a
Sure.
question.
Diane has a question for Dr. Henning.
Yeah, I understand that you have owned the said property for some 45 years. I wondered if you had a record of the maintenance of these windows over time. Is this just something that you noticed this year, or do you have a record of doing any maintenance on the windows?
Well, we've been doing maintenance for the past 35 years.
And
We
do you have
repair as much as we can.
Can we see a record of that?
I can show you what we have. I'm not sure what would you consider to be a record?
I guess you would have a bill from somebody that would have done the work.
Yeah. If staff would be, that would be necessary.
I don't know that we would have, they're talking 35 years. I'm not sure how long you keep your receipts, but I doubt that we're going to be able to produce, 35 years of receipts on everything we've done to the property. We have a few of those, I would imagine.
Does staff have any information about this maintenance done on them?
So there has not been a certificate of appropriateness application for the windows, as far as I'm aware, from this ownership group over the last 45 years. And if they do have that information, I don't believe that would change the nature of the request today.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no one else from the commission that has a question for Dr. Henning, can the next speaker identify themselves, please?
Sure. My name is Dr. Phil Arnone. I did live in that house from 1985 to 1989. In fact, I met my wife on the front porch of that house.
That's cool.
I am the original founder of the Dell 100. It was my original vision to raise money for that house. In the course of time, since that has happened, in 1991, when we started raising money for this house, we had spent $735,000 on that house. So when you ask me a question about have we done repairs on the windows, we have spent an immense amount of money trying to preserve that house, and the $735,000 is just on the big projects, not the daily projects like the $20,000 boiler, but we've spent $200,000 on the bricks and the tuck pointing on the back of the house in 1992. We spent $100,000 to repair, not replace, repair the slate. We spent $95,000 to repair that porch, and I don't think any of you will deny that the porch looks great, even though I feel like we met with great resistance from this committee about our intentions and our plans for the porch, including your insistence of us keeping old columns that were not even the original columns that have now looked much better than they ever have before. We just spent $200,000 to repair the brick. We're spending $140,000 expected on roof, and we have this window bill. And in the meantime, the interior molding is falling apart. We just had a chandelier collapse because of the water damage. So when I hear someone say to me, do I have a list of repairs on a house? We have been working diligently to raise money on a volunteer basis. No one on this committee takes any money from that house. We all do this because we care way more about this house than any of you care about this house. We spend hours trying to raise money and make plans to diligently care for that house. We have thoroughly investigated properties in Providence, Rhode Island, which is very historic, where one of our committee members lives, and in Charleston, South Carolina, which is close to me. And we have looked closely at historic homes that have used vinyl windows. And I hear people comment about the size of the window from the outside and yes, there's a size difference, but it's microscopic, and to the naked eye, no one can see that. No one can see the difference between a vinyl window and a wood window. And should we try to replace those windows or repair those wood windows, it would set us back the roof, which will devastate the inside of the house. We have interior repairs. The house will no longer be a historic property because if we spend $300,000 on windows, the house will fall apart. So we as a committee have no choice but to move forward with vinyl windows. And we hope that this committee understands our commitment to that house. And while I recognize that we don't meet all the ordinances that you would love for us to have in terms of repairing all the wood windows that are there, we have looked carefully into what that would look like with vinyl windows. And just as we've made a good decision on the porch and a good decision on the brick, we feel this is a very good decision to replace the wood windows with vinyl. And we can't see any other path forward. And that's all I wanted to comment on, that I think this committee needs to understand the hundreds of thousands of dollars we've spent and the hundreds of thousands of dollars we have ahead of us. It is not the windows and we're done. And I'm sure as soon as we finish the roof, the windows, and the inside, it'll be time to replace the slate again, or repair the slate again, or replace the Yankee gutters, or repair the Yankee gutters. It's a never-ending story. And that house is not sustainable with wood windows if we move forward with that. That's all I have to say. If I have any comments, I'd be glad to answer them. And I can provide invoices for all of those repairs if somebody needs that.
Thank you,
That I've
Doctor.
mentioned.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm looking for the commission right now, and I see no one with questions for you. So thank you very much. I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, we have gone some time here. So what I'd like to do is, Matt, if you would just summarize again what's before us in terms of recommendation and staff's.
So I think the matter at hand is you have two choices, really. The first one is preservation of the existing windows. If no to preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right product? Staff feels that vinyl windows do not comply with the ordinance and are making a recommendation for denial as submitted. Should that take place, the applicant can return with a different application for review.
Okay, and since legal is here, I want clarification. With the commission, if the commission supports the petition and decides to ignore the staff recommendation, the motion would be what? And then if the commission decides to support staff's conclusion and go that direction, it would be that, just because we don't have this very often.
So I think the matter at hand is you have two choices, really. The first one is preservation of the existing windows. If no to preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right product? Staff feels that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right product? Staff feels that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right product? Staff feels that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right product? Staff feels that, okay, if not preservation, is vinyl the right replacement material and window? So that's the essence of this petition. And so staff feel that, okay,
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to make a couple points, so
Thank you.
thank you for asking. On the first one, should the commission grant the petition and allow them to go with vinyl windows, it's important that the petitioner understand that they have an obligation at that point to document very carefully the existing wood windows, so that at some point in the future, if someone decides to actually replace them with historic wood windows, they know what the dimensions are and what opening they go into, which gets to the second point, which is if they move forward, please do not damage the opening, so you preserve the ability in the future to put in a replacement wood window, historic wood window. Now, as far as motions are concerned, as I'm counting, there's going to be 6 votes tonight. So I would recommend that you make the motion in the affirmative to grant the petitioner's request, and then vote accordingly. You can either vote to uphold it, a yes to uphold it, or a no to deny it. And that way, if it fails to get a majority, it fails.
So if the motion was made, do you think the appropriate recommendation would be grant the petitioner's request as presented?
Correct.
And then have the commission vote?
Yes.
And if that action is corrective and moves forward and goes on. If it fails, then we look at the staff recommendation would be, or come back to you?
No, if you make it in the affirmative to grant the petitioner's request and it fails to get a majority, we're done. Their certificate of appropriateness, thank you, is denied.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear cut. Does the commission have any questions for staff or staff? Michael?
So if the motion does not pass, what is the petitioner's option?
Then the petitioner is allowed to appeal to the city council. They need to do so within, I believe it's 30 days.
Yep. Okay. So I don't see any other questions for staff. So before us is the request to install new windows at 1208 Main Street. The J. Monroe Parker Fick House is a locally designated historic landmark and located within the College Square Historic District. CJ House Home Construction is the petitioner on behalf of Delt 100 Alumni Council LLC. Do I have a motion to approve? Is that what I do? Yeah. Motion to approve.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to approve the request to install the new windows. May I have a roll call, please?
Powers?
No.
Hostetti?
No.
Kretz?
No.
Franken?
No.
Miranda?
No.
McGivern?
No. Then we are done with that matter, as I understand. Okay, that takes us to letter number C, case number COA 23-19, exterior alteration of the 705 Gain Street. The Lewis P. Best Apartments is listed as a contributory structure in the Hamburg Local Landmark Historic District. Marion McGinnis is the petitioner. Staff.
Okay, so the LP Best Apartments were built in 1905 by architects Clausen and Clausen, who are a prominent local architecture firm at the time. It's a 2-story craftsman apartment building, which was historically 4 units. Prominent features include 3 porches, bay windows, dormers, and wide eaves. And it sits atop a hill overlooking Gain Street and 7th Street. So the project scope really has to do with the structural soundness of the foundation. So that photo on the left is an interior photo of the current condition. It consists of 2 separate concrete slabs that sit atop one another that has begun to fail. The most prominent damage has taken place at the northeast corner of the building. So you can see that photo on the right. There's a cellar door and also two window wells on that corner. And then the southeast corner is also beginning to crack and feature just general structural damage. And then that image on the right shows, again, that northeast corner and a porch that will need to be removed as part of the structural repairs to the foundation. And that porch will be rebuilt in its current condition with current materials. So the scope of the work, this is a state historic tax credit project. The property owner hired IMEG Corporation, who prepared engineering plans for the foundation improvements. They also have hired a specialist to conduct a mortar analysis, to do parging work to the foundation. So they will be reconstructing really that northeast corner of the building, removing the cellar door and the window wells, appropriately addressing the structural repairs, and then placing those features back in kind. So this photo shows some of the parging that'll take place on the foundation, and then that porch will be dismantled for the stabilization of the foundation and then put back in place with wood material. The photo on the right shows the two window wells that will be replaced with the original brick. And I believe that sidewalk then would be shifted further away from the building to prevent some of that water damage that has caused some of the structural repairs to begin with. So with that, recommendation is made to approve the certificate of appropriateness in accordance with the submitted material. And it conforms with the historic preservation ordinance that every reasonable effort shall be made to make the minimal number of changes to keep the property in a good state of repair.
Thank you, Matt. The petitioner is here. If the petitioner would like to speak, you may, if not, I don't think she's too eager to do that. So, Commission, is there any questions for staff? Okay, I need a recommendation.
I move to approve the recommendation for the COA in accordance with the submitted material.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Hestetti,
Yes.
Kretz,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Franken,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
All righty. That will take us to case COA 23-20, request for the exterior alteration at 713 West 7th Street. The John and Louis Bolt House is a contributing building in the Hamburg Local Landmark Historic District. Joseph Ehrenberger, petitioner. Matt?
Okay, so the Bolt House is located on 7th Street, just one property west of Gaines. Built in 1891, it's a Queen Anne with wood siding and a stone foundation. And the structure has remained relatively intact since its original construction. So this is a dream project. The request is to replace 8 windows on the north and east elevation, so 6 windows facing the street on the front. The original or historic windows are a 1/1 pattern. They're wood windows with wood surrounds. So the replacement window, the product is Pella Reserve. It's also a 1/1 pattern, wood window with a white clad exterior, and they will fit the existing openings and dimensions. And then the final component of this project is replacing the existing 6-panel door, which is not original to the home, with a new 6-panel door and then a aluminum storm door on the front. So with that, staff is recommending approval in accordance with the submitted material. The project has been reviewed for conformance with our historic preservation ordinance and meets the following standards: that deteriorated features should be repaired rather than replaced. When replacing, it should match the olden design, color, texture, and other visual qualities and materials, and it maintains the proportions of the existing home.
Okay. The petitioner is here. You'd like to speak to the commission? Or? All right. Does the commission have any questions for staff? I need some direction, please.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we recommend approving the certificate of appropriateness for the exterior alteration according to the submitted material.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Kretz,
Yes.
Franken,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Hastati,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes. Okay, that will take us to other business. Matthew?
So the 2023 Preserve Iowa Summit will be held in Sioux City, June 1st through the 3rd. As far as I could tell, it's only attendance is in person. So if any commissioners are willing to make that, drive across the state, the city would pay for your registration fee. So please just send me an email if you have an interest in that. Staff will keep an eye out for local, training events or perhaps some online ones that are more accessible to us. But feel free to send me an email if you are interested. And then this summer, the Party in the Park dates have been set. So there's 4 dates. 2 of them are close or in historic areas. So the first one would be June 15th at Lafayette Park. So that's just adjacent to the Hamburg Historic District. And then the other one that I thought was relevant was the August 10th one at Garfield Park. And that's because the Miles Collins House is situated at that park, so we would have a local landmark. So the event's 5:30 to 7:30. It's more of just host a table, people might come, ask some questions. So if the commission's interested, we can reserve a table and coordinate from there.
You all good about doing that again this year? Yeah, I think we're all good about doing it.
Did we say which ones were that we can make? Would you like a list of?
Yeah, so I think, does the commission feel comfortable with just going with the 2 that are closest to historic districts? Because one's Marquette Park and then the other one's Imai, which aren't really tangent to one. So I could send out an email. So I'll send the June 15th and the August 10th one. You could let me know. It's just a 2-hour event. You could come for an hour. We can kind of coordinate from there. It's more family-friendly, kid-oriented. So.
Okay. All righty. Anything else?
And that's all that I have.
Okay. This point for open forum with comment from the public. Seeing none, time for adjournment. A motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Hey, what you guys